Good day and welcome, Matthew here again. We are at Manufacturers Cup, Lago Maggiore, Maggiore. If I say them all, I can't be wrong. Hey. Anyway, we're at this really cool track which I love in the forward direction. In reverse, it's not so cool. But we're also in a Ferrari, which is really cool, but it doesn't hold on to its tyres, so it's also not so cool. So it makes for a really tough race. So I was really happy with the qualifying. Qualified 7th. It's the fastest lap I've done so far at this combo. This is a fairly new track for me. I don't get a lot of time for the Saturday night races to practice on. So generally speaking, I'm at a track and I'm at a track that I know and with a car that I'm familiar with. So there's not a lot of learning involved. It's just getting down the lines and getting your times down. But this one had to start from scratch. The car hates the first corner, so not only am I learning this track from scratch, more or less, the car does not like the first corner or a couple other ones. So you're learning a track while fighting a car which does not like 2 or 3 corners, so you're never getting like into a rhythm, into a smooth flow or anything like that. It's very difficult to get down, and you compress that into less amount of time, about half the amount of time I would have for a Wednesday race. You just don't hold a lot of hope out for the race. So I did one practice race before this, and I knew the tyres could get to the end. Just you had to be very careful and very patient with the car and drive it just nicely. You couldn't overstep the boundaries when you're coming off the brakes. And I'm a right foot braker, so I come off the accelerator to put on the brakes. And most Gran Turismo players are left foot brakers. So I guess I'm one of the few that's a right foot braker. And so there is a transition period between the accelerator and the brake. And this car, you're going into some corners, you come off the accelerator, or you're on the brake, you come off the brake to go back in the accelerator, and the rear steps out. And that's fine for the first 5 laps. 4 laps, 5 laps, no problem at all. It's that 6, 7, and 8 that if you are not careful about how you come off the brakes, the rear steps out, the tyres are worn, they don't have the grip they used to have, and so they spit you. You spin around, or you're counter steering into it, you're catching a drift. It is so difficult in those last few laps. So the plan going into this, qualified 7th, I was really happy with that. Maybe if I get close in the early laps, I might have a chance to attack. B-Spec Bob and Dino started ahead of me. That was optimistic. Dino's is going very fast, and B-Spec's actually running really nicely in the Honda as well. So it was more relying on their mistake. If I could capitalise on a mistake, I might move up a place and then hold on to that position for the remainder of the race. That was the plan going in. Wasn't sure how it was quite going to work out, but that was the plan going in anyway. And so far so good. I did not realise that Weapon had started just behind me until we got onto the first lap, and I was like, oh no. I was a bit worried because I know Weapon's fast. The Maz is a good car. Weapon is a good driver. So I knew he was going to be trouble all race. And as you can see, we're nearly 2 laps into this race, and he is on my bumper, not letting me go at all. And I knew it was just going to get worse and worse as the tyres went out. I was going to get slower. I did not expect the Mazda to get any slower. So, bit of a predicament, but that's where we're at. 2 laps in. So I'll just take you through a lap on board with this car. Just for interest's sake, I think. So braking just after the white line, we hook over that right hand curb, aim for that white piece at the end of the right hand curb at about 160 k's before we can accelerate out. This corner gets very tricky later on with tyre wear, and it's tricky enough as it is. You're braking down and then turning to the left nice and tight for the following left-hander. This is where the Ferrari has an advantage over the Mazda behind, and this becomes important later on. The Ferrari can change direction very nicely, and that's one of the inherent advantages of the mid-engine layout. So the Mazda behind and the front engine layout is a lot more sluggish with changing direction. So that's where he suffers the most, and that is one of the most important. You know, you get a good run on somebody down that hill through that fast left-right, you can overtake them potentially into the hairpin. Also through here, you would have heard the pitch of the engine change. I do lift through that left-right. Even on lap 1 and 2, you just cannot attack it really hard in the Ferrari, you just burn your tyres. Nice and easy through there. You see how kind of easy I'm taking and not really attacking these corners. Into the hairpin. I figured during this race there's not really the best line, but at this stage it was a safe line and it got me through that hairpin. And this is the point where you look in the rear view mirror and you start to see the Mazda close up, especially up here. I can't be too aggressive into these corners. The rear does like to step out, especially over that crest as we approach that hairpin. And you see the Mazda right in my rear view gets really close through these last few corners. So they are more difficult corners to overtake, which is good for me because that's where the Mazda has the most advantage, so it's easier for me to defend and hold my line. And the corners or the straights where it's easier to overtake, the Mazda seems to be weaker. So I'm in a good position at this stage. We're on lap 3, heading into lap 4, so let's go. By here we go, I mean let's just skip to the last 2 laps because it was just a game of keeping ahead of the Mazda as much as possible. So I think I ended the last segment in lap 3 or something. And it was just more of the same. But now, lap 7, 8, you're going to see the wear of the tyres. And you see it's getting very slidey. It's quite difficult to control. This is probably the closest, or one of the closest points he got going up the inside of me there. I thought he was going to stick to the inside. Actually, no, in the moment I was like, I've got the outside line. I was a little bit ahead of him. If I just turn in and commit, I didn't think he had the car under him to retain the inside line through that fast left-hander at the top of the hill. So one thing I'd picked up from sitting in front of Weapon so much was that he wasn't actually on my tail the whole time. The car sort of ebbed and flowed as they went around the track. So he was a lot quicker in the last sector and heavy braking zones and tight corners where he could brake deep and late and put the power on really aggressively. He could do that really nicely. My car could change direction a lot better than the Mazda, and I picked that up going downhill at the end of the first sector. You got the fast left right flowing section, and the Mazda could not live with me. It would drop back 2 or 3 tenths every time consistently, and so that really there's 2 good overtaking opportunities, and it's heading into the hairpin early on in the lap and then down the long straight with a good draft. And both those points were weak for the Mazda. So I was able to take advantage of that by being able to gap him just enough with the car, with my car being able to be better at those points. And then in the slow stuff over the back of the lap, I just needed to hold my position. There wasn't too many ways around. He couldn't go around the outside of me. I just had to hold my line, hold my apexes, and just keep it nice and neat. So here, that corner wasn't too bad. A little bit late on the power, he gets a good run. I was actually surprised it didn't go up the inside of me here. I just got to be careful with that because that curbing, the ripple strip on the right, because it does pull me around at this point. Hit the apex here, get on the power, and you just see the Mazda fall away. This is a fast sector. He can't really live with me. I can take that left-hander and then switch over to the right-hander much more effectively, and you see the Mazda disappearing slightly in the rear view. It gives me the luxury to pull the car down and brake nice and deep, and even though he caught right up to me through there, I wasn't too bothered. I know my car is faster in a straight line than the Mazda. I thought I did, and so I even pull over to let him have the outside. He doesn't take the opportunity to stick to my slipstream. Lift off through here, make sure the car is nice and controlled. This is getting very slippery now. On the brakes in a straight line. He cannot get round me through here, so I just need to hold a nice line. Do not let the car slide. Braking down to this apex. Get a good run, stick to the left hand side, make him go the long way round, so just position my car, have to hit this apex. He tried pulling it up and was going to undercut me. I really go slow on that apex. He does a nice job and actually does do an over and under, and gets up beside me. So now up the straight, I'm looking to the left. I'm gonna have to be on the outside for this corner. This is gonna be really difficult on these tyres. He does a good job of not pushing me wide. I stick to the right hand side. That's my car sliding, not him pushing me. Then I'm on the inside for this corner, which was important. It gave me the position back. These corners really tough to overtake. It's too long to go around the outside. I cover off the inside, hit the apex, hit this apex, and I was home free for 6th position. I could not believe it. That was such a tough race to do. So tough to get that position at the end of the race. So that was it. Sidog actually took out this round, this Manufacturer Cup round, and it made for a hell of a night for New Zealanders. So this was the 4th race of the night. So we had Nations Cup, Manu Cup, Nations Cup, Manu Cup. Terra Holland took out the first Nations Cup. Then Double H took out the first Manufacturers race in the Audi, no less, which was epic. Double H, New Zealander, by the way. Then myself, I took out the next Nations Cup in the Honda Civic. And then Sidog took this one out. So it's probably the first time ever that out of the 6 races of a night, and certainly the 4 most competitive races of the night, that New Zealand has won 3 of them. It was an incredible night for us. It's good for New Zealand, it's good for this region, Oceania, it's good for the world of Gran Turismo. It's good. It's good, couldn't believe it. Anyway, enough of that. I could not believe this race. Coming from 18th in the last race and down the dumps, not really wanting to do this one because of how bad the tyres turned out to be. I adjusted a few things, adjusted the brake bias forward a couple, changed my mentality, and I had, another race, a whole race experience under my belt by then. So I knew what to expect. I actually expected Weapon to get past me. It's just funny how his car was, stronger in the parts where you can't really overtake on the track and weaker in the parts where you could overtake on the track. And it only got worse for him as his tyres started to wear and build up a bit of understeer. And maybe the change in the slipstream was taking effect, causing him to understeer more through those fast corners, which meant that he couldn't get onto the back of me as easily, which meant I was more easily able to retain my position. He had a good go at it, a fair fight. It was actually really good racing between us. I gave him what I thought was as much room as required and gave him the racing room respect. And he did the same. He didn't knock me, he didn't push me wide, he didn't dive me, didn't do anything untoward. It was brilliant racing for 7 or 8 laps straight. It was really intense and I loved it. Don't care I wasn't at the sharp end of the field, like first, second, it's always fun. But when you have a battle like that, a race-long battle for 6th or 7th, that's also just as much fun. It's what you do this for, is for these sorts of battles. And it's even better when you come out on top. So, thank you, Weapon. Thank you all for coming along and watching. Hope you did enjoy what you see. If you did, hit the like and subscribe button. As I said earlier, I do these races live. If you want to follow them live, click the link below. It says Twitch. Probably have to follow me somewhere on there. I'm not sure. I'm sure you know how to use the internet. Find the link that says Twitch, click on that, come follow me, watch these live. A lot of fun. Thank you again. Hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, bye.